because of the size of data, some of this data can, as you can imagine, be market moving, right? There's not that many entities that see $5.8 trillion of spend, and we see that spend on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so on a recurring basis.
Hello, fellow donors. My guest today is Amit Gupta. Amit is the CEO of Cardlytics. Ticker symbol is CDLX on NASDAQ. Cardlytics is a commerce media platform that leverages its publishers' first-party transaction data to power rewards and programs. Before Cardlytics, he held leadership roles at Stripe and served for Google's Geo division, which oversees Google Maps. Amit, welcome to World of DaaS.
Thank you, Auren. Great to be connected, and a huge fan. So looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, really excited. Now, maybe not everyone knows, if you're not like deep in the ad tech world, what Cardlytics does. So can you just give us like a super quick overview of what it is?
Yeah, of course. So as you said, Cardlytics is a commerce media platform, and within the platform, we run two ecosystems, the financial media ecosystem and a retail media ecosystem. On the financial media side, we run arguably one of the largest financial media networks in the US and UK through our unique positioning and partnership with most of the largest banks in the country. And on the retail media side, we bring to market a leading identity resolution capability. And same way, partner with the largest retailers, and also based on our IDR capability, bring our own retail media and data network.
Okay, so you just said a whole bunch of things. I don't think like anyone would know what they mean. Probably most people don't know what retail media is. No one probably has ever heard of the acronym IDR. I've been in ad tech for my entire life. I've never heard that acronym before. So what is that?
Yeah, IDR is identity resolution. Right.
It's funny. I come from the identity space. I've literally never heard that. Is that like a common acronym that everyone says and stuff?
I think you're right. When you kind of get in the weeds enough and are nerdy and geeky enough in the identity space, it becomes a popular acronym. But
is that like well known, like even at LiveRamp and stuff? And
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I mean, in your former company, who is a great partner of ours. So the simple thing is, for a bricks and mortar retailer, they want to know the in-store shopper, and they have different ways to connect with them that are not on their loyalty network. And we help with our product, with our
you're taking like the card, the last four of the card, plus the zip code and the name, and then you kind of like help identify that person or something?
That's exactly right. So first 6, last 4, and a few other attributes that are part of our secret sauce. We help identify the individual so that retailers can then form a loyalty relationship.
Got it. And you say, okay, we have 100% confidence. We're 80% confident that it's this kind of consumer type of thing, or?
That's exactly right. So that's part of the secret sauce where we can actually come back, and the retailer partners who had anywhere from like 30 to 40% of their customer base known, and we bring it to 90%. And you're right, Auren, we give a confidence ranges. In some cases, we can actually come to the point where we can say it's deterministic or close to it. And in some cases, we'll say it's highly probabilistic, and we give high confidence levels. So yes, we give confidence levels with our...
And what else can you tell about that person? Like, because they may have seen that person a bunch of times and not known it, but what else can you tell them about that person?
Yeah, such a good question. So knowing the person by themselves is valuable, but we also believe attributes and behaviors are important. So each of that individual or identity graph of ours comes with over 140 attributes. So the socioeconomic, behavioral, is it a pet family? Is it a sports family?
Now, is it a family? Because I've seen the data from all these different places, and they're like, maybe directionally right, but almost always wrong. Like half of them have my gender as a woman, and so how would you know like these are correct, or does it matter? Is it just fine if it's directionally correct?
I think this is where we pride ourselves on. So it's more than directionally correct, and it's either in some cases deterministic, because our core of the business is based on first party data. And the second part is we thrive on scale. So we process on the bridge side of the business, we process over 12 billion transactions. And that allows us a lot of scale, a lot of rinse and repeat. And then on the financial media side, we have a view into over $5.8 trillion of spend. So the scale really helps us get a highly probabilistic and in some cases a deterministic point of view.
Got it. Okay. And like when you're also getting these like transactions that are coming in from banks. You partner with banks to give them like offers, right?
That's
And
right.
then they're giving you, there's kind of like a quid pro quo where they give you some transactions and stuff like that. And you have certain rights on the transactions, but not other. You can't like, I assume you can't just like sell the transaction data like an Affinity or a Yodlee or something. So like, how does it work? Like, what's the deal that you have with these like banks?
Yeah, I think the best thing is our financial partners, our bank partners, are very aligned with us in to deliver the maximum value to their cardholders, right? And so part of that process is we integrate with the banks, we get their transaction data, very uniquely positioned company, very privileged that we get that large amount of transaction data, as I mentioned, $5.8 trillion of annual spend. And that allows us to give a lot of insight into their own cardholders at an industry level, but also allows us to bring advertisers so that they can actually get a micro targeting capability to reach out to these audiences in the bank channel, right? So when a user goes and logs into their bank app, then they are able to
This is where
redeem
you
these
see those
offers.
offers. Hey, you can get like 10% off of Best Buy when you
That's
spend
right.
your card there and stuff like that.
That's exactly right. So, and that's the powerful thing. I think the other thing you mentioned about rights. So the rights are very much focused on things that we can do, products that we can bring to market to again deliver the most value to the cardholder. So you're right. We can't take some of that data outside in the open web, but that does allow us to bring more innovative products. So more recently, we have, as I mentioned, two businesses: the retail side and the financial side. We have now started to connect those two businesses in a privacy safe way, and that gives us the ability to bring a CPG level offer, a product level offer, a brand level offer, so that there's more value for the consumers for even their everyday spend, and that becomes more interesting for the banks, for the advertisers, and for the consumer.
With each bank, do you have like different rights? Like for some, you can only do certain products. And then for some, like maybe after you earn their trust, you can do more things with them, or how does that work?
So each bank, as you can imagine, is different, and each bank partner is very important to us because they're placing a lot of trust by giving us access to their data. So the banks are different by definition. So there are some banks that are leaning forward and kind of going into more forward-looking things and products that we can do, that we can bring to market. But there's a core set of data rights that cuts across all banks that allows us to run a network at scale. And that's consistent through all our bank partners. So maybe
And
let me
is
ask you, what's your favorite snack
my favorite snack of all time,
of all
or
times?
well, I mean, I'm a donut person, so I love donuts.
So donut.
Yeah.
And maybe what was the last place that you got the donut?
There's this place locally near where I live in DC that's just like amazing. Just has these incredible donuts.
So let's say the Amazing Place donut. And if you share a bank that you like, you may not want to share the bank that you bank with, but a bank that you like.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's lots of banks. Let's say Bank of America or
Bank
something.
of America.
Yeah.
So next time you go in, you get your favorite chocolate donut from the Amazing Donut Place in Bank of America, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we can actually bring. So the donut place
But
is happy.
they won't know I got the chocolate donut. They'll know I spent, $8 at the donut store.
So that's the beauty of it, Auren. So you're right. The bank transaction would know that you spent $8 at the donut place. But our new capability where we're able to connect the SKU level data with the basket level data
Okay, so
allows us to get to the
you're trying
chocolate
to
donut.
build relationships with the merchants where they're like sending you the SKU, and then you connect it up just like the same way you're doing before with that identity management
That's
solution.
exactly right.
And then you can say, okay, this happened with this transaction or something like that.
That's
What does
exactly right.
the merchant get for that? The merchant gets like ways to give better offers and stuff.
Merchant gets to have Auren, their favorite customer, to try the new chocolate donut, right?
Hmm.
Merchant gets to bring the
So
best of their
better marketing or something.
better marketing, more targeted, more efficient spend.
And is there a data co-op? Because like I spend probably like way more money than I should on donuts, but I also spend a lot of money on like pickleball stuff and whatever. And there could be like a pickleball donut combination or something,
Yes. So I think you can imagine, because we also know a little bit more about Auren, that Auren's probably a sports family and specifically around pickleball. So yes, we can actually bring the connection of the right partners. So in addition to the donor people, we could bring Fanatics to making sure that Fanatics is offering your favorite pickleball player
But
jersey to you as well.
are you managing like a second party data sharing, or is it like, okay, we're putting this data in a co-op and based on that, we're going to like build profiles on people and stuff like that?
Yeah. So we have Cardlytics acquired this company called Bridge a few years ago, and Bridge is where we have the identity resolution capability, and also that is the part of our retail stack where we connect with where we use to connect with the retailers, and in that we do have a co-op of grocers and mid-market retailers and convenience store operators. So in that, we have over 130 million unique shopper profiles that allows us, kind of what you're saying, alluding to, that is in a way a data co-op, and that allows us to build deep profiles then advertisers can access and reach out to across the internet.
That's interesting. Is there like data you wish you had the rights for? Like, if you could only do this, you would unlock like another $1 billion of potential or something, or...
Yeah, I think the ability to connect both the data sets, right? Both data sets are the financial data set and the retail data sets.
Yeah.
Both are very, very rich. Both are powerful. They have scale. And ideally, we want to connect the two data sets. And only recently, we have kind of cracked the code, and we're piloting with one of our bank partners to connect the two data sets.
Because they have to agree to this?
They do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We take, as I mentioned, this is trust business, and we take this responsibility very seriously. So we get approvals from banks whenever we are doing something new with their data. And so one of our forward-thinking bank partners and one of our merchant partners we've connected. And now we're able to kind of show the power of data. And so it's an interesting next step in the company's evolution. And that does unlock a whole bunch of ability for a new set of advertisers to connect with their customers in a different way.
Interesting. And when a bank because there's a few other companies that kind of do these like card link offers and stuff like that, like Cardlytics. So let's say a bank like Bank of America or something like that is like thinking about doing this, or do they have like 4 different vendors in there and they're just trying to understand like which are the best, and then, okay, first they give like 25% each to each vendor, but then over time they like reallocate it to people who are making more. Like how does that work? Like,
yeah.
Or do you get like an exclusive to this particular bank or something?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the interesting thing is sophisticated marketers really are doubling down on card-linked offers as a unique ad format, because this is one of those ad formats, Auren, that, and you know this better than I do, this gets direct value instantly to the end consumer. Right. So it's a very unique ad format, and it's actually gathering more steam. So the leading marketers are creating a budget line for CLO, and we're excited about that. And they're actually leveraging some of the new products.
CLO is card-linked offers.
Card-linked offers.
Yeah,
thank you. I appreciate me. I keep using those acronyms, throw people off. Yes, card-linked offers, that becomes a major channel. And some of the marketers are really testing out the new products. So we brought in things like multi-tier offers. So for example, some of our airline advertisers are using our product to help customers upsell and buy broader fares, or even our gas advertisers are using our products to upsell to premium levels, premium start. So that the whole kind of ecosystem kind of benefits. Now, to your point, there are competitors who are in the market because it is a vibrant market, it is a growing market. And the way the banks think about it, in some cases, they love the fact that we have an end-to-end platform, and they really leverage our platform as the core way to run these offers. And at times, they'll get content from some of the other partners. On the flip side, there are banks that have their own platform, 1 or 2 banks that have chosen to kind of think about their own platform. And then they still value our premium content, because in the industry, maybe I'm biased, we do have the most premium offer content with some of the leading advertisers, and that differentiates us in a pretty major way.
I mean, you see so much data about transactions, I assume you have like all this like super interesting data about consumer behavior, about the economy. I haven't seen you like publish a lot of that data. Do you not have the right to like publish that, or some of the insights, or maybe you do? I just haven't seen it. If you're enjoying this podcast, please sign up for our newsletter. Go to worldofdas.com. The link is in the description below. Now back to the video.
Yeah, I think you're right. We do have limited rights in how much we can publish because there's a data lag that we get subject to. Because of the size of data, some of this data can, as you can imagine, be market moving. Right? There's not that many entities that see $5.8 trillion of spend, and we see that spend on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, so on a recurring basis. So there are limitations in terms of rights. So just to give you a few interesting anecdotes, despite the market sentiment we see, retail spend is up 6% if you think about like March, April this year versus last year. Right?
Oh, wow. 6% year over year.
6% year over year.
That's a lot. Okay.
Same thing for home improvement. We see, for example, for gas, we see trips are down, trips are up, but the spend is down because of the reduction in the gas price, right?
Yeah.
So trips are, if I recall right, the trips are down.
And trips are basically just the number of times you go to the gas station or something.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Right. So, and in terms of delivery and restaurants, the third party delivery, we see increase of about 13% year on year, but the in restaurant, there's a reduction of about 3% year on year. So there are very interesting trends that are happening. Some of these, especially around every home improvement or retail, there are some tariff effects that we can see where consumers might be front running just to kind of get ahead of potential tariffs.
So consumers are actually thinking about it, and like they're spending they have the knowledge enough to spend, okay, I got to buy that German or Chinese product now type of thing.
I think we do see some spike in the March, April timeframe, but overall, the retail is still, the everyday retail, everyday spend is still holding steady. As I mentioned, like 6% year on year. So there is some front running, but generally the spend is holding steady. Both for just everyday retail and home and garden, home improvement. So, we see so far the consumer is trying to find deals, right? So people want to spend, people want to make sure that their needs are getting taken care of. And they are more interested in finding deals that helps them meet their needs at times at a slightly lower checkpoint.
Interesting. What would you see that would make you worried about the economy? Like what type of stat would be like, whoa, I gotta get out of the market or something or whatever?
Yeah, I think there are 2 or 3 indicators that start to get us a bit worried about, right? So when the everyday spend, so discretionary is discretionary because, that kind of goes up and down and it impacts certain parts of the demographic more than others. But when everyday spend or, food and restaurant spend.
The restaurants, kind of like things that you could cut.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. When they're kind of border at the level of discretionary and everyday spend.
Yeah.
Right. When those start to go flat and start trending down, that means the consumer is hurting. And we don't see that at this point. As I mentioned, it's a very good thing that we see in gas. The spend is down 11%, but the trips are only down 3%. Right.
Yeah.
So the consumer is actually holding pretty steady. And that spend is down mostly because of reduction in gas prices.
Yeah, interesting. And then nowadays, like every company, it seems like has some sort of rewards program. Are there some sort of like basic principles that make these programs work well?
Actually, that's so true. The rewards program have become, in some ways, table stakes, right? For any large consumer platform, loyalty is important, and because consumers have a lot of choice, and it's a good thing, right? Because the competition brings more value to the consumer. So the core elements that we kind of see as we work with different kind of partners, there's a clear, differentiated value proposition that needs to be there. It needs to be easy to redeem, earn and redeem, and it needs to have value to the consumer, in some cases for their everyday, in some cases for the discretionary spend, right? So depending on the vertical, right? So you can imagine like airline and hotels are more in the discretionary side,
Yeah.
and the everyday platforms like the retailer loyalty programs are more in the everyday side. But the perception and the feel of reality, feel of value has to be important for the end consumer to truly kind of get on the wagon.
Most airline loyalty programs are now worth more than the airline. Like a
Yeah.
lot of these airlines are actually like they've got this money losing airline, and then they've got this loyalty program and credit card that's like making all the profit on the side. Like, how do other businesses learn from the airline so they can monetize those customer relationships? Or is that just like it's just too hard? It's like the airline is its own like weird, unique thing.
Yeah, I think the airlines and hotels are in a unique place, and for a couple of reasons, as you can imagine, there's a fixed cost to the inventory, like the empty seats or the empty rooms. Once the plane flies or once the night is gone, that fixed cost is still there, right?
Yeah.
So for the business to monetize those fixed costs in a profitable way, that is something very differentiated for the airline and the hospitality industry. Secondly, banks and card companies have realized, there is a high switching cost for the consumer. So the loyalty element, the stickiness with a airline program and a hospitality program is pretty high, and so they're willing to buy these points at in substantial amount of generating substantial amount of revenues for these companies, right? So there's real value that is ascribed to them. And in some cases, as you said, in some cases, it's actually delivering equal, if not more, revenues, profitable revenues to some of these companies, which is absolutely fascinating. And thirdly, from a consumer standpoint, for a vast majority of consumers, this is actually helping them defray their discretionary spend, right? So their vacation travel or their vacation hotels get significantly reduced or significantly comped, so to speak, through their loyalty programs, and that creates a stickiness. Now, you also see some of these loyalties have started to fray now because there is question about the loyalty points or the value of these loyalty programs, and that's where our platforms come in as a great complement to both the some of the non-airline and hotel programs, but also to some of these programs as well.
Chime is likely going to go public this year. Is that something you track? Do you track how these neobanks are doing?
We do. And actually, we are increasingly partnering with not only the large banks, but also neobanks. I'm happy to share that as we start to grow our neobank footprint, both in the US and UK, we're also seeing different spend patterns, and we're bringing, as you can imagine, neobanks are a bit more forward-leaning in terms of trying on new products. So as we develop new products, new offer categories, neobanks love to try them because it does bring instant value to their consumers, and that's the feedback we hear, which is really gratifying. I think it's a good point. It's a combination, right? And it also depends on the user. So, for Auren, we need to have what I would say more exciting offers in terms of either a bigger percentage back or a bigger dollar value back. For some consumers, they like the fact that there is, even if it's a smaller amount, but there's everyday spend reduction. So the check size for their spend for everyday purchases increases, right? So the percentage might be lower, or the dollar value might be lower.
Do they get after they spent money at Best Buy and they save $10 or something like that? Do they get like a text or an email somehow from the bank saying like, "Hey, you just saved $10 and we're now debiting that or putting that back into your account or something"?
So I love that question because in some ways, depends on the bank. Some banks actually do give them, here's your statement credits, you saved X dollars, and in some cases, they actually get a notification as well. So it depends on the bank. So neobanks are a lot more comfortable with sending more frequent notifications, right? As you can imagine. And then some of the traditional banks prefer, lower number of emails or lower number of communications because they have different standards, internal standards. But the good thing is, when we think
I would
about
see it on my statement or something. Like
you
I'd
do
see
see
like
it on your
I spent $179 at Best Buy, and then later here's an extra 10. Here's $10 that I got got put onto my account because of
That's
that or
exactly
something?
right.
Okay.
So you go to your monthly statement, you'll see that credits appearing on your statement
And
without
do
having
those
to worry
credits
about.
only happen after I paid back my minimum balance, or does it happen like immediately, like
Yeah.
when that statement when
So
that
it
happens?
depends on the offer. In some cases, it appears right away.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like a hotel offer or an airline offer. You may have spent right away, but it waits till the flight is flown or the hotel night is
Oh
the,
yeah.
the
Okay.
user actually
Yep.
stays in
That
the
makes
hotel.
sense. Yeah.
So in some cases, it's delayed. But yes, yeah, it shows up right away on the credit card. And this is something we know, or since the conception of the company, we've given over $1 billion in rewards. So we are very proud of the fact that we become part of the journey as different partners of ours are looking for new ways to give rewards back.
And it seems like every brand is launching their own like retail media network right now. Like every brand is becoming like an ad tech company. Every retailer, and you just go down whether it's internet one like Instacart or even just like random ones that are out there. What are the characteristics of like a successful media network that they should be focused on?
True. I think there's always always flies when there's honey, right?
Yeah.
And retail media is the new kind of flavor du jour ad format for sure. And that's why we have a lot of these new ad formats popping up left, right, and center, and that's creating a lot of fragmentation. As I speak with CEOs and CMOs who are in our network, they actually talk about that it's way too much. And there was the initial excitement about, hey, can we actually now leverage these new retail media networks? But we are already starting to see consolidation, and we expect that consolidation is going to continue. So if I think about what differentiates, the single biggest thing is it has to be first party data is what makes these networks impressive, right? And that has to be offered at scale for sophisticated advertisers, or frankly, even smaller advertisers to take true advantage of retail media networks. So the first party data at scale is super important. The second part is there has to be ease of execution and ease of activation. So we come across certain networks where people have to sign on, and then they have to kind of go get the data out, and then they have to go somewhere else to activate, and that's too much friction for either an agency or a marketer that is trying to rapidly allocate budgets. So both the scale of the first party data, the extent and richness of the first party data, and the ease of activation, all those are important for one of the largest, and those are the characteristics of the large retail media networks, and that's what we pride on ourselves as well. In Ripple, which is our retail media network, that offers exactly this, right? Offers a lot of scale in terms of over 130 million unique shoppers, and then the ease of execution or ease of activation. People can actually get audiences directly at one of these large DSPs like Trade Desk and others who are our partners, or your former company as well, and then also license the data. And they can also log into our platform, do sophisticated queries, and activate it right there, and activate anywhere on the open web like Google, Meta, or anywhere.
So what like you're now the CEO of a super small cap public company. Like I imagine it's super challenging. Like walk us through some of those challenges.
It is. It is. I think it is both a combination of challenging and an adventure, right? So I think the key word I would probably put here is balance. There is amazing ability for us to move fast as a tech company and develop new
But I
products.
assume you would have more ability if you were private, right? You would be able to move much faster if you're a private company than if you're public. Or am I wrong about that?
I think the ability to do rapid change and not worry about short term quarter by quarter performance significantly is better as a private company. So you're
Yeah.
exactly right. Right. I think the goodness that the public company or the public stature brings us is openness about our capabilities and receptivity with some of the leading advertisers and leading partners who we work with, because everything is open. So there's a transparency element that allows them to place a higher degree of confidence in us as a company. But yes, I think it is a challenge. It is a balance, and but I'm very gratified to be able to serve in the role.
When you look at like, there are definitely some other companies that went down like dramatically and was able to come back. Like maybe most recently, like Carvana, you saw just this massive, just like they lost, 90+% of their value.
Yeah.
And then they were able to actually come out of that and come back well. Like, do you study some of these companies that are out there and stuff? And
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned Carvana. We have a very good relationship with Carvana as a company, and a huge fan of what they've been able to accomplish in a very short amount of time. And I think there are definitely companies that we look at and study and kind of get both inspiration and lessons from. The key part I consistently tell my teams, we have to really stay focused on the customer. And that's what Carvana did, right? They made sure that they're delivering value to the end customer. And that's what we've stayed focused on, making sure that we're delivering the max amount of value to the end consumer with our partners, both on the financial media side and the retail side. And that's really helped us kind of weather through some of the storms in the past.
A couple of questions we ask all of our guests. What is a conspiracy theory that you believe?
That's a good one. I think maybe this is me growing up as a Trekkie. I believe in the UFO conspiracy theory. I feel that there is something out there, or UFO now. Recently, I think they've recently coined it as aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think about like the recent Pentagon tapes or congressional hearings, and now setting up of AARO. There's something there. And I think as we get newer technologies and, new capabilities, hopefully we'll be able to detect and connect with.
Essentially, like 3 years ago, it was like complete conspiracy theory, like only like the craziest people. But now, like, it seems like the average person believes it or something. Like it's moved just because of all this congressional testimony and other stuff.
That is true. That is true. I think it's starting to become a lot more mainstream, or at least more mainstream than before.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, it is. That's an interesting one.
Okay. Last question we ask all of our guests. What conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
I have a college going kid who's a freshman. So I end up finding myself giving him advice more often. I don't know if he listens or not, but I definitely do.
Probably not. Yeah,
exactly. But I dispense it frequently. There's one of the more recent conversations he and I were having. I think he had heard from somebody that hey, if you love your work, the work is then not a pain, and it becomes a pleasure, and it becomes something different. And I tend to think about it differently. So my advice would be to him, and advice generally is, you got to figure out what you're best at. And, once you figure that out, and hopefully that is monetizable and the market values that, then it's hard work and making yourself better and more differentiated at that special skill. And work is work. Right. And it has to be, we've got to go through the slog. We've got to go through the hard times. And
how does one figure out what they're best at? Or how does one, like a college kid, like your son or something, who, may have a lot of strengths and stuff. Maybe they know, like, clearly they're bad at certain things and decent at certain things. But how does one narrow it down?
I think it's an iterative process. Right. There are people who might kind of hit the bullseye right up front, but it's an iterative process. As you said, it's at times it's easier for us to know these are things we're not good at. So, for example, I knew I was not going to go become a doctor. And
why did you know that?
That was not an area of interest.
And okay, so you just weren't interested in it, but not necessarily you weren't like good at it. Like you probably had decent memory and stuff, right? And I don't know, whatever doctors need. Yeah.
That is exactly right. There's a correlation to it, right? Interest starts us, gets us to spend more time in the area.
Yeah.
More time, more at-bats starts us getting kind of more a higher level of proficiency or understanding. And the ball starts rolling from there.
Well, this has been great. Thank you, Amit Gupta, for joining us on World of DaaS. I follow you on LinkedIn. I definitely encourage our listeners to engage you there. This has been really interesting and a ton of fun.
Thank you, Auren. Great catching up and wonderful conversation.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to World of DaaS wherever you consume your podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and more. And please help us get discovered by leaving a review. And check out worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And of course, connect with me on Twitter @Auren. That's AUREN. Would absolutely love to hear from you.